Okay, everybody, thanks for jumping on tonight for our first 21 Laws meeting that we've been postponing forever now. So we are going through chapters 1 through 4 tonight. So let's just start off with chapter 1. What was this to you guys? Was this more of like a strength, a weakness, somewhere to grow type of thing? I want to hear what everyone has to say about the law of the lid.
Mine was personally a 7, so that's what I'm focusing on right now, is trying to get that to an 8 or 9.
Let me find this me. It was, I know it was not good. It was not pretty.
It was the target area for me.
Oh, okay.
I had a 6.
Yeah, mine was also a 6. So it sounds like we could all some growing with the law of the lid. Awesome. Let's just jump into the workbook. I feel like that's a good place just to start in general. If everyone can just go to the workbook area for law of the lid and take a look at the observe section and then question 4. It says, do you know someone whose leadership lid seems unlimited? So did anyone come to mind for anyone for that question?
Mine was Emily.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Solid answer. I had Kaylee for mine. I just said, it just comes to mind, and my goal is just to be able to lead like she does.
Yeah.
I just love her.
Tiffany, what was your reason for Emily?
Because she's top dog, man. I don't know. She was just the first person that came to mind, so I wrote her down.
I think that Emily is just, she never runs out of her warm market, and she is always preaching about making sure that that she's constantly growing her warm market and reaching out to those people. So I feel like her market is never limited, ever.
Right.
And if she starts feeling like it's limited, then she knows how to seek out people to make it so she doesn't ever feel limited or like she's tapped out on people.
Right.
I definitely agree with that.
So what I like about this book is that it kind of helps you explain what the law of the lid is and all the other laws in general. So the law of the lid is the leadership ability to change the person's level of effectiveness. So I feel like I don't know how to explain that well. Does anyone want to kind of take the wheel and explain what the law of the lid means to them? Like in their own little terms that they may have taken from this chapter?
I took it as like the influence they have on people, and like the motivation of like their teams and stuff. And I just feel like I can't get across like that same like message to my team in the same way as like you or Emily or anyone else can. But it also probably has an effect on not having a large team yet, so some people are afraid to like participate on stuff because they don't want to be the only one. So I don't know if it's
right. I see what you mean, though. Absolutely.
I think the McDonald's brothers was a really good example because they had a dream and they had a vision, but they didn't know how to exceed that or go past that. And so it took somebody with a bigger vision and bigger connections. So they're constantly, making those connections in other areas where the McDonald's brothers were not doing that. They kind of stayed in one area because that was their comfort zone. So I feel like a lot of us can relate to that because there's so many times where we feel like, just talking to our aunts or our family members or our best friend, that's our comfort zone instead of speaking to a stranger. that we could, you know, benefit from. We're stuck in that comfort zone and we're not allowing ourselves to expand and become bigger. And that's where the McDonald's brothers had an issue and they couldn't see past their, you know, their just smaller vision of what it could have been.
Absolutely. That was good insight. I really like that story a lot too. It was really eye-opening.
Yeah, I didn't know that at all.
I didn't either. Let's move on to the discuss section in the same chapter. For question 3, what criteria can be used to determine a person's leadership ability? And what are some clear signs of leadership strengths and weaknesses?
Dedication.
Dedication, that's good.
That's a good one.
I think leading by example is one of the most important things. I think it's one thing to tell your team how you feel they can be successful, but it's another thing to demonstrate it firsthand. So as leaders, we can sit there and say, you need to be reaching out to people, you need to be using your DMO, you need to constantly be in your warm market. But if you as a leader aren't demonstrating that, they can see right through that. And they're going to say, well, so-and-so's not doing it, so I'm not going to either. If we want to show our teams how to be successful, we need to first demonstrate how to be successful and prove to them that the time they're taking out of their day is beneficial because that's what's working for us. So rather than somebody coming to you and saying, you know, what can I do to improve? And you telling them what you may have heard. You need to first step back and say, what am I doing to be successful every single day that I can demonstrate for my team so that they can mimic that as well? Rather than just telling them to reach out to X amount of people or try to sign, you know, a new ambassador every month. You need to be doing that as well, or at least, you know, putting the work in to get that job done.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's just a huge part of like duplication. We can't expect anyone to do anything unless we're doing it ourselves. The same goes to our upline too. If we didn't see like Paris or Emily or Holly or whoever not, you know, doing what we should be doing, would we really be doing that? Probably not. You know, so those are big shoes to fill.
And I think it's super important that that we acknowledge the strengths and the weaknesses in our leaders, because we all have weaknesses. And I think just within the first 4 chapters, I've realized a lot of areas that I need to improve on. And I think that that's great. Like, I'm not intimidated by that at all. But I feel like it's important for us to look up at our leaders and say, this is what I would do differently, but then also take away what they do that is working for them. So, for example, who feel like their upline is maybe being boss. So there's a difference between being a boss and being a leader or a mentor in this business. You know, we can't pass the blame whenever it comes to why you're not successful or why your team might not be successful. So those would be some weaknesses. Our strengths are, you know, being trustworthy, leading by example, having a good follow through, determination, like Kira said. But we also have to remember our weaknesses and ask ourselves if those are weaknesses that we have, because until we acknowledge them, we can't improve on them. So what are some weaknesses that you guys think that you might have? Anything?
Mine is staying motivated.
Is what?
Staying motivated?
Yeah.
That's my problem.
I can totally relate to that this week. I haven't lost motivation, but with everything that's going on this past week, I've lost my kind of my everyday structure that's helped me, and that has thrown off my game the past 7 days. Sorry. So, like, I think it's super important that we take time to reevaluate and say, you know, what I'm doing in this moment isn't working, but that's okay. Tomorrow, it's going to be different. I'm going to say even just 3 things that I'm going to do tomorrow to get myself back on track. And I'd like that we're doing this every Sunday night because this is a good time to look back and reflect on our weaknesses from the prior week and then pick out some strengths that we really want to hit on the following week.
Right.
I think another weakness would be just not growing in general. Like personally growing, personally working on affirmations and those, like just no personal growth and just like lack of communication, I think are weaknesses that we all kind of struggle with.
I agree with that because I will find myself sometimes not focusing on doing the readings and stuff because of like school reading and studying and whatnot. So I focus on like my reaching out and stuff. But then once I start personal growth stuff again, then I see like changes again. Just trying to stay in a routine when my school and my work schedule is constantly changing.
Absolutely. I just feel like, I mean, life happens. like, there's nothing else to say other than that. But I think you do a good job at getting back into it and not letting that, like, demotivate you. I think you do a really good job at just always staying on top of your game, even if you aren't. Like, you don't let people see that you aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really cool. Let's Okay, let's go like to the take action one, like in the back of the workbook. Did you guys interview anyone for this? I'm just curious, like who everyone interviewed.
Okay, so I'm guilty. I asked Emily, and then that beautiful baby was born, and totally forgot about it. So last minute, yesterday, I interviewed Casey. What?
Your husband?
I did, yep.
That's awesome.
I
mean, he's a leader at work, so I thought it might work.
It works out perfectly fine. Mine was kind of the same issue. I was going to interview Kelly Lee, and then she is now fostering 4 kids. So she has not had time to get back to me, but she like swears she will, and I know she will, but I'm like not going to push her at this point. So I don't have a backup plan, but I should probably get one. But I just really wanted to hear Kelly's answers. So I haven't. I sent her the questions, and then 4 kids came. So
that's what I told Emily. I was like, don't worry about it. I'll ask Kelly Lee. And then she started fostering the kids, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I asked Emily if she told me to get a hold of Sarah somebody. I can't remember her last name, starts with the C. Yes, that. And I sent her the message, but she hasn't got back to me yet, so I tried.
Fair enough.
The first week that we started it, I was on vacation. So I was like already trying to get caught up by the time I got back to Erie. And then this week I had a big test. So now it's like this following week I have nothing like major school related. So I'm going to try and get caught up with like some of those type of things this week.
That's okay.
Yeah, same here. I need to get caught up on the interview part and interviewing somebody. I didn't get to that yet, but I've kind of been trying to keep up with the readings the most, and then I try to revisit those later.
Cool.
Okay, that's good.
Sounds good. I'm just going to briefly go over, there's like 4 bullet points that I'm also reading in one of these books, and it's talking about the law of the lid, of course. So just think about the following statements. Just take it all in right now. So every person has the potential to become a leader. Every leader has lids. Some lids can be lifted by the leader, and few leaders let other lift lids in their lives. So those are just some things to take in before we head on to chapter 2. But did anyone else have anything for chapter 1? We should probably go through the rest of these chapters a little bit faster just because we have like a 40-minute like time limit.
Let's just pick some of our most important questions and go from there.
Okay, so moving on to chapter 2.
Yes.
Okay, so law of the influence. The true measure of leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. Do you want to pick a question that you thought was interesting or anything?
Yes. I want to know what everybody's answer for number 4 was.
For observe.
Yes. So according to the definition, leadership is influence. Who are the most prominent leaders in your industry, and what influence do they have over industry trends and standards?
I said Celeste.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She was one of mine also.
Mine too.
Just because she
Warren.
has so much, like, she deals with so many people in the company, whether it's directly or indirectly, ambassador-wise and, like, higher up, too. So have an influence on how they go about things, but also how ambassadors go about things.
Yeah, Celeste is a really good one because she not only is such an amazing example of the opportunity that Plexus can provide, but she's also one of the ambassadors that works super closely to our CEOs that allows big changes to happen. She was one of the people that really helped, correct me if I'm wrong, Allie, but in the back office switch over. She was one of the ambassadors that was there, you know, giving her feedback and what she thought would be best for all ambassadors as a whole. So I feel like she is constantly demonstrating how to be better. She's not only a diamond, she's a double diamond, so she's done it twice. And then she's also helping the company to improve, to make this a better opportunity for all of us. So I think that's a really good one. But we'll move on to the discussion questions.
Let's go over question 6. Now, what are some positive ways you could expand your influence in your organization? I just said, like, build relationships, gain trust, allow others to gain experience in leading, and then just creating duplication.
Yes.
I also had being, like, constantly positive.
Hallelujah.
And lead by example.
I had be encouraging and lead by example, which is pretty much what Kira had too.
Yep, mine's lead by example and constantly demonstrating self-development. I know that's one of my weaknesses is I constantly want to find the time to find my self-development, but it's like carving out that time and being consistent with it. So I think that's one of my personal goals over the next several weeks of doing this book is to find that time to have self-development, even outside of Plexus, outside of doing group book readings and stuff, is to just improve on that. And I think by us doing that, it's just going to be second nature for our downlines to mimic and do the same as well.
I think that if I would have started more self-development when I first started my business, that I actually would have expanded much faster than I did.
Yeah.
I agree with that too.
Is such a good thing to note for when we get to chapter 4. Because that was like a huge eye-opening chapter for me, especially.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go to chapter 3. Let's just keep moving.
Well, let me go back for this chapter 2 real quick and do the take it in from what I have here real quick. 4 points. Leadership impact increases as influence increases. When a leader has little influence, little can be accomplished. When a leader has much influence, much can be accomplished. And when a leader places family first, future generations will be blessed. I love that last one.
Mm-hmm.
So true. All right, chapter 3. We're moving right along. Okay. So the law of process. Leadership develops daily, not in a day. Cool beans. Bree, choose a question.
All right. Okay, this might seem like a weird question to choose because this talks about the story more so than our team. But I want to know because this story about Roosevelt like really spoke to me. So I want to know what some of the challenges Roosevelt had to overcome in order to become a leader. But I also want to know how you feel that goes into play with what we're doing. So my answer was that his body needed to catch up with his mind. He needed to grow in all ways to be successful. So how do you guys think that Roosevelt realizing that and working on that kind of goes hand in hand with what we do every day? And I don't want you guys to think that that means peddling ProBio 5. Like, you don't need to bench 200 pounds to peddle some ProBio 5. But what does that mean to grow in all different areas of your life, to just be a well-rounded individual that is constantly building influence?
I think this goes back to like the whole like practice what you preach thing. So if we're going to be promoting health and wellness, we really should be like taking pictures of like our pizza or whatever. Like, I'm so guilty of this. Like, I just drink beer all weekend. I'm not going to lie. You know what I mean? But like, you know, so like it made me think that like I need to be careful like about what I'm posting, because I cannot be pushing health and wellness if I'm posting all these beer pictures and all the pizza I ate this weekend. Like, I'm gonna hide that, you know, but you know, so it's just like we have to be careful. Like, you know, people will see what we do, but we can't be like going grocery shopping and buying like 10 pounds of chocolate wearing a Plexus. Ask me about Plexus t-shirt. So,
I think that's so true.
So I think just like being more mindful about that is kind of like helping you grow as like a person of Plexus, and, you know, as a person, you're becoming healthier as well.
Right.
I had written down how they had said that he was nervous and timid as a child and had to overcome that. So like, going off of that, constantly stepping out of your comfort zone will grow more than just reading books, which reading books definitely help, and it kind of like focuses you on certain things, but unless you actually apply what you're reading and stepping out of the comfort zone and stuff, you really won't grow towards.
Blitz. I was going to say, who is it? Who has the dogs?
I have cats.
They're not mine, though. I swear they're my neighbors. Anyway, I'm glad you said that, though, Kira, because there's so many people who I think are all about jumping on and doing these readings with us, and I think that's awesome, and I hope that people continue to always do that. But there's a difference between reading a chapter or 2 chapters a week, a day, whatever it is that you have set aside, and then actually utilizing the information that you have just absorbed. If you're not going to use it, that book it might as well collect dust. It's not doing anything for you. So it's important to really pick something and commit to it 110% to the point where you are willing to go outside of your comfort zone and take every avenue that the book even suggests or that your upline suggests and just try new things. So I think we run into a lot of issues where people say, I'm not successful in this area, I need help from my upline, or I want to read a book, what do you suggest? And then they do that and they're like, well, nothing's changed, but they haven't changed either. So it's important for us as leaders also to constantly be working on that ourselves. That way we can demonstrate, this is what I read in GoPro. This is what I read in 21 Laws of Leadership. And this is how it's affected what I've done so far in my business. If you want to take the time to read it, I highly suggest it, but you also need to make the conscious decision to do what the book says or take the good advice from your uplines and go from there. But you're only getting 50% of the work done if you're just reading the book and then forgetting you ever read it or what it ever said.
I agree. And something I started doing with having new ambassadors sign, I'll give them challenges throughout the week. And it's just kind of like set up a 3-way chat or reach out to this many people today, or and continue to do that like day after day. And like making a Facebook post and like tagging us in it and stuff like that. And there have been a couple times recently that they're like, well, I don't know how I feel about that. Like one of my ambassadors posting like a week update type thing even. And I was like, believe me, people are going to be wanting to see your progress and this and that. It doesn't matter how long it's been. And she posted it and then ended up like thanking me, like, thank you for pushing me out of my comfort zone. It really helped. And now I have like a few more potentials. So like, as long as they're willing to take the challenge, then they can grow from it. But not everyone does.
I agree. I actually want to read a quote under the learn that I loved. It said, it's the capacity to develop and improve their skills that distinguishes leaders from their followers. So I feel like even though some people feel like if they don't have a certain amount of people on their team, they don't feel like a leader, that is the biggest restraint that you can put on yourself. I feel like a leader can be a leader without having any followers yet. It's having the leadership mindset that's going to make the difference in the long run. So if you have the capacity to develop and improve your skills constantly, that's what makes you a leader, not how many people you have underneath you. A lot of people have just really good connections, and they have trust, or they're more like trendsetters than they are leaders. And that's sometimes why people are able to get ambassadors to sign. There's a big difference I've learned between what a trendsetter is and what a leader is. And so I don't want anyone to ever feel like, I've had so many people come to me and say, I just don't feel like a leader. I only have 2 people underneath me. You could have signed up 2 minutes ago and in my eyes be a leader because of what you bring to the table, not because of how many ambassadors you have underneath you. So I think by, reassuring our downlines of that and really putting the spotlight on the ones that are leaders and the ones that can easily become stronger leaders, showing them that they don't have to have a huge number right off the bat to be a leader is going to help their momentum so much moving forward.
I agree completely. We only have like 7-ish minutes left, so let's just jump to chapter 4 so we can kind of talk about that real quick. So chapter 4 was the law of navigation. Anyone can steer the ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. So let's go to question 4. Who are the top navigators in your field, so in Plexus, and how have their leadership skills benefited their organization? Plexus.
What do you guys think?
I have Sonia Dudley and Sarah Marbles.
Great people.
And then how do you think their leadership skills benefited their organization?
Well, the story of Sarah Marbles was awesome because it took her forever to actually build a team, but once she did, she built a huge one. So it's kind of shows you that if you just keep digging, you'll find your gold.
I completely agree. Sarah Marble, a lot of people wonder why Sarah Marble is one of my favorites, and that's exactly why. Because she didn't give up whenever most people do. Instead, she saw past that and worked because she had the belief and she saw the bigger picture. And she knew that it was worth it to hang in there and find her runners. So I think she's a great one.
And I feel like the law of navigation really ties together with the law of the process, because you have to trust the process. And using Sarah Marble as a great example, she's a great navigator and she's a great person who trusted the process to get her where she is today. She didn't give up. She could have quit months ago, because she wasn't sober forever, basically. So I think just those 2 laws really tie in together well.
I just want to ask the last question for discuss real quick. I want to know, which step in the navigation process do you find the most difficult and why? So that's number 3 under discuss.
Learning from past mistakes. I don't like to dwell.
Yeah. So you're the type of person that says oops and moves forward and says I'm just going to forget about it. And in most life situations, that's awesome. But I've definitely learned that that's not the case here, because if we don't acknowledge what we may have messed up on, our approach is never going to change.
Right.
I think mine was examining the conditions, because I'm not good at looking ahead.
That was mine 100%. And I had a great example that I'm sure you can all relate to, at least those of you that were there. I put that Allie and I had that opportunity meeting in Pennsylvania, and it didn't go well. There was so many things looking back that we could have done differently. And just like the Explorer did, talking to the Eskimos, talking to professionals, really reaching out and seeing what made their navigations so successful is something that I feel like maybe we should have spent more time in, because it was our first time when we kind of walked into it blindly. So that was a learning experience that I'm glad we had, because we get to take away good notes from it. But I feel like had we done more intimate research on how to make it more successful, or how to get our team more involved with it and be more excited about it, the outcome would have been completely different. So that was my issue too. I get really excited and I'm just going for it without ever even looking into what I need to do to make it happen.
Yep. Our enthusiasm is there. The planning's just not there.
What do you think, Andrea?
I honestly didn't get that far. So this chapter I was kind of listening in because I started it, but I didn't get to the end of it.
That's okay. Kira, what do you think?
I don't have like one specific one. It's like little things from each. And like I do like learning from the past, but like Tiff had said, sometimes it's hard with like just wanting to kind of like push past and like get a new start going. With the commit one is I look too far ahead of time and then sometimes overlook little things that I could have done initially, which then affects me more long term.
Yes.
And, I always ask about like what other people like think, but I feel like I don't do it as often as I should. Like of what how like what type of leader I am and stuff like that. So
I think those are good ones. I love that they talked about how much time do we have, Allie?
Like 2 minutes, 23 seconds.
Oh, okay. I really like that they talked about being realistic but still being optimistic and finding the balance between having faith and having the facts. Like I like that was a good balance. And they actually asked about who kind of goes hand in hand, like who is your like yin to your yang. And I actually chose Allie because I feel like I'm too realistic all the time. Like and it almost to the point where it's like downing, you know what I mean? Where I'm like, oh, that's unrealistic. That's not going to happen. And Allie is always the type that's like, you got to have faith. And I'm like, so I feel like Allie is my power partner for a reason because we balance each other. And so I'm glad that they took the time to acknowledge that because I always felt like I lacked in that area. So I think power partners are super important. Not finding your best friend, but finding the person who is the opposite of you that's going to benefit you and push you in another direction that you can't see past. So that should be our goal, is to get some power partners, nothing formal, nothing you need to tell us about, but for yourself is to maybe find a power partner that is going to be that for you.
So before this ends in like a second, basically, I'm going to put it to like the little group message we have, but let's just challenge each other to find our accountability partner. And then I will do another challenge that is already in the book, but it'll be based on reflection because it's going to cut off like any second. So more info to come for next week then. Thanks for jumping on, guys.
Chapters 5 and 6. See you next Sunday.
Bye.
Bye.